Well, mark your calendar. We're about a month away right now from a new era of the royal family in Great Britain. The late Queen Elizabeth's son, King Charles, will be crowned king on May 6th. The last time we saw a coronation, it was a massive production. But Charles won't be having the same pomp and circumstance, and that is his choice. I want to give you a look at the procession route compared to his mother's back in 1953. It is much shorter. The ceremony itself also expected to be shorter as well. And maybe this will grab the shorter attention span of some new generations across the pond as well. If that doesn't work, here's another way that the royal family is modernizing. There is a royal emoji for the big coronation. The royal family tweeted the announcement with hashtag people can use to activate the St. Edward's crown emoji. Joining us to talk more about this and the events ahead, Professor Alan Allport from Syracuse University. Professor Allport, as always, I love having you on talking about the royals. Scaled back, is this Charles style? Any surprises here?
Well, he's supposed to like the simpler life, although to what extent a king can have a simpler life is an open question. I think, with all coronations, there's always this attempt to match, on the one hand, the kind of the traditional and the dignified, with on the other hand, a sense of the contemporary as well. So, there's a lot of things from what I understand about the arrangements, which are going to be fairly customary. He's going to travel in the Diamond Jubilee coach to Westminster Abbey, which apparently is quite a nice ride now. They've got air conditioning in it and power windows and so on. Afterwards, he and Queen Camilla will leave in the Gold State coach, which is a considerably rougher ride. Apparently, I've seen it described as something like riding inside a washing machine. But you're going to get a mixture of some of the traditional things that we've seen, lots of military ceremony, pomp and circumstance. But there's also going to be an attempt, I'm sure, to try and make it a little bit more 21st century. There is going to be associated music concerts and other kinds of events as well. It's the royal family always tries to tread this difficult line between appearing to maintain a kind of continuity with the past, but also not seeming to completely out of date and irrelevant either. So they're pretty good at these kinds of things. So I would imagine they'll probably put on a decent show.
And the question being, will Harry and Meghan be there? What are you hearing, and what's the significance of their attendance?
Well, my understanding, for what it's worth, is that an invitation has been extended, but they haven't yet responded, and sort of negotiations are going on between the palace and the Sussexes. My own suspicion, for what it's worth, is that I think they probably will go in the end, although they'll probably have a fairly scaled down role in things. One thing I do know is that that Harry will not be required to pledge formal allegiance to his father. One of the traditional elements of the coronation is that the royal dukes are pledged to their liege lord, i.e. the king or the queen, but only William is going to do that, apparently. So Harry will not, which also conveniently avoids Prince Andrew having to do it either, which is a whole other kettle of fish that I think they would prefer to leave aside.
Right, exactly. Focused on other things. Well, what do you make of the fact that Harry and Meghan, the royal family, considering to strip them of their titles? Is there any importance to that? Is it just a title, or does it mean more?
Well, they're already not His and Her Royal Highness, and the children won't have HRH titles either. There's still the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and apparently there was some discussion at the time when they decided to step back from royal duties about whether they'd lose those titles as well, although Charles appears to have been against that. So they seem to have sort of reached a kind of middle ground. I don't know. The impression I get from the coverage is that Charles obviously isn't really happy about this situation and would like to try to mount some kind of reconciliation with his son and his daughter-in-law. But it's going to be tricky. From judging by the Netflix series and also Harry's recent book, he has some pretty huge grudges against the royal family in general, and I think to some extent his father too. For he feels that his father didn't offer good advice or provide the kind of support to Meghan Markle when she needed it. So short of there being an outright apology from his father, and I'm not sure if that's ever going to happen, then I'm not entirely sure how they're going to heal this particular rift.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider, and don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.